It wasn't until 2006 that I first met Anna in person. And for me, it was love at first sight. She lived out of state, and I lived in another state. We met at our homeschool conference. Anyway, they ended up coming to our house just a couple months later. It was after they pulled out from our house that I went back to my dad and I said, I'm for sure. 18 years old, typical young man, having those desires. So it wasn't unusual. I don't think that the age was really important to them. I think it was more the maturity.
It's Katie from Without a Crystal Ball. Welcome back to my channel. Are you the kind of person that's super impatient, and when something you really want to happen doesn't happen when you want it to happen, you get kind of annoyed and you're like, could you please get on with it already? Welcome to the United States court system, where nothing actually happens on time. And we have an update on Josh Duggar. Y'all, I am one of the most impatient people when it comes to having an answer. I want to know right now what things are going to look like. It's hard for me to wait for what's going to happen next, especially when I want to know justice is being served. I also get so annoyed when cases get dragged on and on and on, but this is the day and age that we live in, and it's the Duggars, so what can we expect? In fairness, this case actually did move at a lightning pace once he actually got the indictment, and now, for those of you that wanted him to actually get his sentence done on the 5th and find out what would happen to him, y'all are gonna have to wait like a lot longer, because he got almost a 2-month extension on his hearing. So on the 18th of March, I told you guys about how his attorneys had filed this really weird motion about how they needed to fill out, do some research so they could prepare a brief of sorts, which would help them determine certain aspects of a specific issue in a certain number of a statute. That's kind of how vague it was. They were having trouble meeting with Josh, they said, so that he could do like a private FaceTime. I was wondering like how private his conversations are with Anna, because he literally talks to her like 100 times a day. So the delay is one of many that Josh has done. He's done a delay like so many times, it's getting a little annoying. But anyways, the judge didn't immediately respond, and I was like, well, what's going on here? And then as soon as he filed the motion for a continuance, his PO put in the final report. So I was like, well, the final report is done, so of course they're not going to delay this any longer. Well, they got the motion approved. So Timothy Brooks, the judge in this case, who by the way is not a Duggar fan, so if you're thinking he's somehow in the pocket of Jim Bob, you would be incorrect. Timothy Brooks does not like Josh Duggar. Well, I wouldn't say he doesn't like him. He's just very familiar with the Duggars. He's not ruled very favorably in the cases against the Duggars when it comes to like they sued the city and they sued the county and all of that. Like he's dismissed literally everything they've tried to do in this court. And so no, he's not in the pocket of the Duggars. He's not favorable to the Duggars. But it says that they are going to reorder and approve this motion, and it's now going to be on May 25th, 2022 at 9:30 a.m. in Fayetteville. If you were waiting for, if you had a plane ticket and you were going to go to a hearing and watch the sentencing go down in court, you might need to get a refund for the April 5th date. So this is actually almost 2 months of an extension. It's 7+ weeks. And Josh is going to have that much more time while he is in Arkansas. So right now he's currently in Washington County, and he's still like not at home. So even though there's a delay in the sentencing, there isn't any change to his status. He's still in custody. So that won't change. So you don't have to worry about Josh being a free man during this time. He still isn't going to be around his children. He still isn't going to be around any kids. He's still going to be away from society, tucked away in a place that's actually worse probably than the federal system because of overcrowding. So his accommodations there are not the best, and overall that specific place that he's at has a lot of problems. It's all over the news. Just go to KNWA and look at all of the issues they've had with that center. So what this means is that they have a bunch of weeks now to prepare even more for what they're going to argue during the hearing. What I don't really know what they're going to argue or what they are going to try to argue is, I'm guessing, part of me thinks that they might ask for some sort of stipulation where he's like on house arrest, or he, is in supervised release or something like that, because they're going to try to, I don't know. These are just my speculations, that he's somehow not going to be bad, and that maybe his past actions shouldn't be considered. I really don't have a clue, but everyone that I talk to says these continuances are normal. And I know that. I know factually that these things are normal, y'all. I know factually that this happens in court all the time. Heck, I've gone through my own cases, not criminal, but you know what I mean? Everything gets continued. And then you have what's been happening currently in the with the pandemic, and courts have been so backed up. Like where I live, courts are so backed up that they aren't even going to cases during certain periods of time. So, I mean, they're months and months and months behind. So when it comes to this case, it did go through very, very quickly, but the fact that I want to know what his sentence is and I don't want to wait, it just makes me so annoyed to know that we have 2 months. 2 more months until we decide. 2 more months. 2 months. He gave him a 60 day, because it was ordered today and he did 60 days instead of 30. My guess is that the judge has other things on the calendar, so he won't be able to do it in that time frame. And maybe they knew that. But this will likely be the last extension that they get, because they've only done it once. And in fairness, when Timothy actually set this, Judge Brooks set this up, he did say that there could potentially be a change in the sentencing date. So changes are not abnormal. And what bothers me in all of this is that all of the other stuff is filed under seal. Listen, I know it probably should be filed under seal because it contains like private information about Josh and like medical and, health records and anything that might be an extenuating circumstance. So obviously that's not public information, but I just want to know what that number is. Like, is it 10 years? Is it 15 years? Is it 20 years? And do you think that somewhere in Arkansas, Josh is looking at this as like some sort of win? Like, oh, yay, I got another 60 days. It's I've got 60 more days to figure out how to frame Caleb. The other thing that I think is really bizarre is that the judge has not ruled on Josh's motion for a new trial or a motion for acquittal or to drop one of the charges. The judge, might be extremely busy and may not just have time to get to, it. Maybe he's got things that he wants to consider. Maybe he's trying to determine if he's going to drop one of those charges. Maybe he's doing research. I don't know. They responded on the motions related to his wanting a new trial. It's been like almost a month. Yeah, they replied on the 28th, and the judge still has not ruled on that. The judge has been sitting on his motion for a new trial for over a month, or at a month now, and he hasn't made a decision yet. I'm like, does someone think that he's just doing this to make Josh sweat? Do you think Brooks is just like, I'm just going to make him sweat, make him think that I'm going to give him a new trial? In fairness, he doesn't have to rule until like before the sentencing, and it's unlikely that he's going to rule in Josh's favor. These are all standard. And then another thing I should note is that if he were to deny something like a motion for an extension of time because they claim they want to do research on a specific statute to argue at the hearing in terms of like what they believe the appropriate sentencing would be, if he were not to grant that and then they didn't have the appropriate time to actually do that research for that, he could try to get an appeal on the sentencing hearing or something, or an appeal on the whole case. So in this case, the judge is going to always err on the side of caution and just do everything in their power not to have anything appear as though there's something that he did that could cause an appeal. And Josh is already going to try to say that his constitutional rights have been violated a million times. He's done this like so many times already. So you know that in this specific instance, the high profile nature of it, the fact that Josh has already been crying and screaming that his constitutional rights have been violated, we have a fair idea because his actual attorney said they would appeal. So I think the judge in this case is just being extra cautious to not add any fuel to the fire or do anything that would cause even further grounds for an appeal. I hope that makes sense. So right now, this is where we're at. You guys, 2 more months to decide what's going on with Josh and where he's going to be, which means 2 more months of probably a lot of silence from the Duggars. And we have only a few more days until the wedding. So today is Thursday, March 24th. Jeremiah is getting married on Saturday. The first wedding of a Duggar without Josh Duggar there. Children will be safe for the first time at a Duggar wedding in eons, assuming Josh is the only problem child of this family. And Jeremiah, who is going to be he's 23, is going to be marrying Hannah. And I asked a bunch of you to give him advice or to give them advice, and a lot of your advice was run, Hannah, run. Do you think all of the boys are like bad and you just don't like them? Do you think they're all super indoctrinated? Have you still like not enjoyed the fact that none of them have spoken out about Josh? Do you still feel like angry at the whole Duggar family? Is that starting to like dissipate the further away we get from the conviction? Like, where are you at in your feelings about the family? Are you still angry at them? Do you still hate them? Do you still like, I love them? It's just Josh that's the problem. Where are your thoughts in all of that? Because I've noticed sort of like this shift in where some people are super angry still, and then others are starting to get like more calm because the emotional height of that conviction is now gone. So where are you at? Tell me what your thoughts are in the comments below. Bye guys.